If you're visiting Italy for the first time, make sure you watch this video. We'll be sharing 10 tips that you need to know before you go. My number one tip when traveling to Italy is to pack smart. First-time visitors almost always overpack. They bring too much stuff in too big of a suitcase and they end up regretting it, because it's really difficult to haul a big suitcase around on cobblestones, uneven sidewalks, up and down stairs, hoisting it onto trains and into the cab. It's just no fun. I get it. You want to look good and you want to have the right thing to wear in any situation. But I've found you really don't need to bring that much if you pack smart. Here are my tips for looking good and feeling comfortable in just what you can fit in a carry-on. Number one, bring a capsule wardrobe. What do I mean by a capsule wardrobe? Well, that's just a small collection of clothing where all the tops and bottoms coordinate and go together and can be mixed and matched to create a lot of outfits out of just a few items. Number two, check the weather just before you go and see what the high and low temperatures are going to be. And then bring layers that can transition between cooler mornings or evenings and warmer or hotter days. Number three, and most important, is to bring comfortable shoes. And by that I mean sneakers or some other kind of walking shoe that has a lot of cushion and a lot of support. Leave the heels and the flimsy sandals at home. You will be doing a lot of walking on your trip, and a lot of it will be over uneven surfaces and cobblestones, which is really hard on the feet and the knees for that matter. And if you're worried that you won't look fashionable wearing sneakers, don't worry. Italian women love their sneakers, and they all wear them all the time with everything. I'll put a link to a packing video in the description box below.
Book attractions in advance, certainly major ones. Like here in Florence, the Accademia Museum, where the day of it is, really can't stress this enough. It'll save you a lot of time. If there are any main attractions you want to see, like the Colosseum or the Vatican in Rome, or the Uffizi Gallery in Florence, the Last Supper in Milan, or St. Mark's Basilica in Venice, be sure to book your tickets online way in advance and go for the first time slot of the day if possible. You will avoid the lines and visit the attractions at the least crowded time of the day. Otherwise, you could find yourself waiting in line for an hour or more, and you don't want to waste your precious vacation time doing that. Another way to avoid the long lines is to buy a guided tour from a reputable vendor with an appointed time. We'll put links to some of our favorite tour companies in the description box below. They have excellent tour guides who can really bring to life what you're seeing. There are two options for using your phone in Italy. One is to use your US plan, but it's important, it's critical that you set up the international service before you come, because otherwise you'll get outrageous charges, and I mean in the thousands of dollars, when you use your phone as you do at home. These US plans, if once set up, will cost you about $10 a day. If your trip is more than a week, it may make sense for you to get an Italian phone plan, either a physical SIM or an eSIM. And you can get a good plan on this from the major phone providers here for under $40. That provides a lot of data and holds. The only disadvantage is you do need to go into one of their stores after you get here. The other way to get a card is to get an eSIM online, but the disadvantage there is you'll only get data and you won't be able to use your phone for calls. We have a whole video about using your phone in Italy. I'll link it in the description. If you plan on visiting big cities or major tourist attractions, you can count on finding people who will speak some English. But it's great to learn a few words of Italian, mostly for common courtesy. People are more likely to go out of their way if you first say buongiorno and then ask them if they speak English. And it's social custom in Italy when you go into a shop or a store to say buongiorno up till about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and buonasera after that as a greeting, and the shopkeeper will respond in kind. Some of the most important words to know are per favore, which means please, grazie, which means thank you. And it's not grazie, but grazie, if you want to sound a little more legitimately Italian. Dov'è il bagno? Where's the bathroom? And parla inglese? which asks them whether they speak English. And remember, Google Translate's your friend. Have it on your phone, and it will be able to get you through almost any interaction. If you've never traveled to Italy or to Europe before, you may not know that electrical power and wall outlets are different than they are in the US. In Italy, and in fact in most of the rest of the world, they use a higher voltage than we do in the US, 230 volts against 115 volts. What this means is that your electric appliances like hair dryers and curling irons won't work here. In fact, they will blow up because of the higher power. So bring a dual voltage device or just rely on the hair dryer that they'll supply for you in the Logic. We'll link to a good dual voltage hair dryer in the description. The good news is that your electronic devices like your phone, your computer, your tablet will work here because the power goes through a transformer that adjusts to the different voltage. However, you can't just plug your device into the wall. You'll need an adapter because the shape of the plugs and the outlets is different in different countries. One complication is that Italy uses two types of outlets, one with 3 holes and one that's round. So you'll need an adapter to adjust to those, or ideally an adapter that will adjust to both of those types. And most of those also include direct connections for your USB cords. We'll link to those in the description.
People ask us all the time, how much cash should I bring to Italy, and do they accept credit cards there? Well, the answer is yes, they do accept credit cards almost everywhere, especially MasterCard and Visa. So you really don't need to carry a lot of cash. And in fact, we'd advise you not to, just in case you're pickpocketed. When you do need cash, go to a bank ATM, also called a bancomat, and withdraw just a couple of €100. Do not use a freestanding ATM, and especially don't go to a currency exchange counter, because they will kill you on the exchange rate and also give you hefty fees. It's a good idea to take 2 credit cards when you travel, in case one of them gets refused or, God forbid, stolen. Keep them in 2 separate places. Don't carry them together in case you get pickpocketed.
Let me give you a tip about tipping in Italy. It's totally different than in the US. Rather than leaving some percentage of the bill, you just leave a little bit, maybe €1 or 2, and you don't even have to leave anything. That's what my Italian friends do, is they generally don't leave anything on the table. It's just the way it's done. Having said that, you may find that in popular tourist destinations, American tourists have trained the servers to expect American-style tips of 20% of the bill or more. And let me tell you, the Italians are not happy about that. Don't succumb to the pressure. If the service was good, leave a few euro. Don't feel obligated to leave any more. Beware of pickpockets and scams. Any place where there's a lot of people, you run the risk of having a pickpocket or a scammer take advantage of you. Now, Italy's not any different than any other country in this regard. In fact, it's a very safe country and it's mostly petty crime. But in big tourist areas, it's a risk you need to be aware of. To avoid pickpockets, here are some tips. Don't carry valuables in your backpack. And in fact, don't carry a backpack at all. If you need to carry things, carry something in front, like a crossbody bag or your purse, and keep your hand on the strap. And never hang it on a chair behind you when you sit. Don't carry your wallet in your back pocket. Carry it in a front pocket, ideally a deep one, and if you have something else you could put on top of the wallet, that's even better. Avoid being distracted by somebody asking you a question or by a loud commotion nearby. Pickpockets work in groups, and they use your lack of attention to give themselves an opportunity to pick your pocket. Or they might bump you, and you're then not aware of what's going on, because they are good. You won't know until much later that you've had your pocket picked. The same goes for somebody asking you to take a survey. What they're wanting to do really is to ask you for money for some sort of wonderful sounding charity, but that money is ending up in their pocket. Be very careful when asking a stranger to take your photo or to accept an offer of someone else doing it. They may well just take your phone and steal it. Then there are 2 types of scams where they try to intimidate you into giving them money. You'll see paintings laid out on the street for sale, but what they're really hoping is that you'll step on it or someone will jostle you onto it. Then they will loudly complain that you've ruined their wonderful artwork and demand a lot of money
because you've ruined it and will continue to harass you. Just move away. Don't listen to them. And if they continue to harass you, tell them you're going to call the police. Similarly, if somebody tries to hand you a gift, usually a bracelet, don't take it. They will then demand money from you and do the same sort of loud harassment that they do for the paintings on the ground. Just ask them if there's a problem. Tell them they can call the police.
Make sure you leave time to rest, relax, and wander. Sit in a cafe, have an aperitivo, watch the people go by. Enjoy your trip. Don't just check off things off a list of to-dos. I know, it's your dream trip and you want to see and do everything. But you also want to savor and enjoy it, not just check off a list. We've found that it's best to schedule only 1 or 2 tours a day and spend the rest of the time wandering around on our own and taking the time to enjoy a cappuccino or an aperitivo and maybe do some people watching. Otherwise, if you try to schedule every minute of your day, you will be exhausted. Your trip will be a blur, and you won't have enjoyed it as much as you could have. What we usually do when we visit a new city is to book a tour or an attraction for the first thing in the morning when it's least crowded. Then we spend some time exploring the area nearby and have a leisurely lunch, then tour a new site in the mid-afternoon. We go back to our hotel in the late afternoon, have a little rest, maybe a shower, and then we go out for an aperitivo around 7, followed by dinner at 8. If you get sick in Italy, know that you probably can't get over-the-counter medications in most grocery stores. You're going to have to go to a standalone pharmacy like the one behind me, and they always have the green cross outside to tell you where it is, and you can see it from a distance. And the pharmacists are always very knowledgeable, and if you tell them what's wrong with you, most of them speak at least some English, they can help you. The second thing to know is if you're sick and need a prescription, if you have COVID, if you have strep throat or the flu, you can get on doctorsinitaly.com, and for a nominal fee, I think it's around €30, they can give you, advice, and they can write you a prescription. And if you're really sick, if you have an emergency and you need to go to the hospital, you can call 112, which is the emergency number all over the European Union, and they will send an ambulance. Or you can go to the pronto soccorso of the nearest hospital if you're in a city, and that's the emergency route.